human nature to want people to pay for doing you wrong, to want to see them suffer in this life. But in all honesty, who is really suffering in the bitterness that you are holding? I had to look at myself and see myself as bitter as I was. I was bitter. I was holding a grudge against my father, who had abandoned us, who had not supported us financially, emotionally, or physically. We had no one, and he had left us destitute. He had left us in a home that was deteriorating. Indlu eyaveka yadilika esekhona, and it was a field that was left, no building structure. Sahamba siyohlala nomakhulu wethu thina because we didn't have a home, yet he was still alive. But then I asked myself this question: what happened? Because he wasn't always that man. What happened to him that made him become like this? So I went back on his story and I tried to remember the good times. I tried to remember how he was when they were still together, him and my mom. And I remember that before they had broken up, my father was still working as a bus driver. But because he was the only one that was carrying the family financially, he was the only one that was working, and he had us 5 children. Yes, he had children on the side. I don't know if he was responsible for those children as well, but I knew he was struggling financially because he wanted to make extra money by using his own car and using it as a means of transport for the people that didn't have cars to get to the different mine shafts that they were working on. So he'd work night shift transporting people for his company. He worked for Impala Mines, and then when he is done with his night shift, he wouldn't go home to rest. He would park the company bus and then take his own car and start doing the rounds. He was tired all the time and he had lack of sleep. What happened was, this one day he took his car, did the rounds, and when he was coming back from a different mine shaft, he was driving alone, he turned over some other bridge and his car was written off and he injured his left arm. He stayed in hospital for a couple of months. He had like bruises on his face and his head, and when he came out of hospital, his arm wasn't working, and then they retrenched him from his work because he was a driver, and you can't be driving if both your arms aren't able to work, if they aren't able to function correctly together. So he asked if he could do other jobs at the company, and they said no. And for him, that was the biggest rejection, because he had worked for that company since he was a young boy. He had worked from the underground digging gold, and he went up to be a chef. He went up to work in a hospital. He went up to work in admin. So are you trying to tell me that there was no job that they could find for him? He could even work in admin. In admin, you just need your right hand if you have to write stuff down, because he was right-handed. So they were like, we have nothing for you. So he felt rejected after so many years of being loyal to one company. They retrenched him. And when they retrenched him, he got his pension fund money, everything, got all of it. When he got his money, he purchased a car, which he meant to use it as a taxi. He wanted to go into the taxi business. He bought a venture car. And then when he was 2 days before he left the province to go to the Eastern Cape, and he thought in his mind he was going to run that car himself, he was going to drive it himself, he didn't have a problem with it. And then what happened? People came in, they robbed him and my mother. They took everything, including the car. And then before they could take the car, because he didn't have insurance on the car, he had paid for the car cash. Before they could take the car wouldn't start because he had disconnected a few cables, And before that, he didn't want to give the keys. But my mother, because she knew where the keys were, she gave them, the people with guns, the keys. She gave them the keys, and then when they tried to start the car, it wouldn't start. And they knew that he had tampered with the car. So my mother asked him, please tell them what you did with the car, fix it. They're gonna. And I think that's where things started going south for them, because he felt like my mother was siding with them. Why did she give them the keys to the car? Why did she ask him, like, he to ask him to fix what he had tampered with in the car? He felt like my mother was not on his side, and he went into a deep depression because now he had no money. He had no money at all. He was gonna come back home. He didn't want to come back home, and then he started having fights with my mother. And then there was this other woman that was on the side, his lover. Then he chased my mother away from the house, and then he moved in with this woman. But by the time that he moved in with this woman and broke up with my mother, I think that's when he went deep into this dark season of his life, because he never wanted to see us from then. He never wanted to do to be supportive to us children, and we're still very young. And he was receiving money from his workplace, money for the children that are still younger, that are still studying. And that money is the money that he survived with, and it's that money that he kept his household running, the household that he had been living in. He stayed with three children that are not even his, whilst we were left in the cold as his children. But through all of that, I wanted to understand him, where his mindset was. I think he felt like he couldn't take us on. I think he felt like he failed as a man. His ego got the better of him. And then he started drinking. He started drinking, of which he wasn't a person that was drinking. My father was against drinking alcohol, was against smoking. He didn't smoke, he didn't drink, but he started drinking on a daily basis. And he became someone unrecognizable, someone we never knew he was, until the day of his demise. And I had to realize all of this when he was actually gone. And I had to forgive myself for not wanting to give him a chance while he was still alive. And I had to forgive myself, and I had to say yes to forgiving him, even though I never received any apology from him. I had to accept the apology that I never got, and I had to say yes to forgiving him in order to free myself, because as much as I wanted to hold on to the grudge, and I wanted to stay angry at him, it wasn't good for me. I would carry him all over. But now I'm free, and I've forgiven him, and I recognize that somewhere, somehow, he was dealt a bad hand, and he couldn't rise above that. It was terrible for him. It was terrible. But we didn't know what happened to him. But I think I understand him, and I forgive him, and I love him, and I realize that his blood runs through my veins. I can't deny that he's my father. He was not a good father at some point, but there was a period where he was. There was a period where he was. So I think forgiveness is something very important for us to live a fulfilled life, to go on with our lives, and not to be held hostage by the angry feelings that we might have towards the people that did us wrong. Sometimes people hurt us because they are hurt, because, as the saying goes, hurt people hurt people. May we learn to forgive, even if the apology was never said to us. Even if we never received the apology, may we say yes to forgiving, yes to peace, because we need peace. And God has been so grateful, it has been so graceful by giving us peace that surpasses all understanding. One would look at me and think that I am foolish for forgiving someone who had treated me wrong, because I've been through some of the most traumatic things that I would never think about saying again, things that I felt like I had to do in moments for survival. So yeah, man, I hope you learned from something from my story. I always share my stories so that I create awareness around issues, and I want someone to take maybe something out of it, maybe learn something out of it. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe to my channel. I know a lot of you are watching, but you're not subscribing. I love you lots.